Hi, sir. Hi, ma'am. We are so thrilled to have all of you on board with us in this session. So now I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of Spotlight, what Spotlight is all about. Spotlight is a show that is uniquely designed to bring some never heard before opinions of experts from different areas of life on the most highlighted and important issues of or topics in the publishing ecosystem and affiliated industries. So in this session of Spotlight, we have esteemed authors like Mr. Vikram Khaitan, Mrs. Radhika, Mr. Siddharth Rajsekar with us. And topic of this spotlight will be new age publishing, what authors need. So my first question to all of you is, the Indian publishing industry went on the downfall during this pandemic. What are the challenges you faced as an author? So I'm just going to start with you, Siddharth sir.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. For me, this was the first book that I actually launched. So for me, during the pandemic, what ended up happening was, since I've been building a community of my own, I have a community of more than 14,000 students of mine who have bought my courses. So for me, I approached my entire book writing process to create a kind of textbook for my own community. So yeah, overall, while the overall publishing industry would have gone through its ups and downs and the challenging times, but for me, the advantage was I had an audience that was ready to buy even before I started writing the book. In fact, I told that I'm going to launch the book on June 20th in Jan 2020 itself. I mean, it is this year. And interesting thing is, most people were waiting for the book even before I'd written a single word. So that was an interesting thing, a story on my side. So I did not see any challenges over there. I just saw a huge opportunity where I could get my message out to my existing audience. Yeah.
And what about you, Vikram sir?
You see, in fact, this lockdown, pandemic, work from home, it opened up opportunity for people to start writing. For first-time authors like me, although I have published 4 books and they've all gone on to be #1 bestseller on Amazon, and this is my latest, Seeds of Advice. So what I felt was that, publishers were there, opportunities were there, but people did not have time to write. Those who are not regularly into writing, they were not getting time to write. And this pandemic opened up the opportunity and gave them and showed it to them that they can start writing now because this is the time. So in fact, it gave me a lot of opportunity to start writing things about I believed in and I wanted to communicate to the world. And yes, the publishers have also changed in this period. Their ways of working also has changed from being the dominant in the field to becoming consultative in their approach. So I think the change has been for good.
And what are the challenges you faced, Radhika ma'am?
Actually, when you are asking me this question, I'm reminded of an essay, okay, written by Megan Dom. My Misspent Youth is the name of the book, and the particular essay in that is publishing and other near-death experiences. There is a name or there is a title of the essay. So, seeing that, we can find out how many people go through what sort of challenges to get a book published. See, during this period, actually, my book was published in March, just before the lockdown really set in inside Tamil Nadu. So the real problem was the paperbacks were ready, but the delivery stopped. So Flipkart, Amazon, everything stopped. And when it was going on also, there was lockdown and so restriction in certain areas. See, I'm an avid book reader, but I like the smell of a book. I am not very fond of this digital reading. See, all our class, I'm a teacher. So basically, everything changed. I was one who was a maths teacher, means it's a paper and book. Always we are with the children. So we had to switch over to the whiteboard. That itself was a big change, the writing on the whiteboard. And on top of that, we have to get tech savvy and get ready with the Zoom calls and these sort of things. That itself was creating quite a bit of changes in my life. And this ebook was something which I thought is an additional to a paperback. So the paperback was my main, that was in my mind, but it all turned upside down. So many of my friends who are like me, who like to read the book and have the really feel of the book, they were all not able to purchase it. If they wanted to purchase the book, it was not available. So only those who really could manage went on to this ebook or outside the country and those sort of things. So I missed out of my regular readers. A lot of them I missed out. So the main problem which I thought in the lockdown is that shuttered bookstores and here postponed dates or cancelled orders because they couldn't be delivered. And unpredictable, the sales trends also changed. So there's people who never usually, I thought these people don't read. They were the ones who got the book and read first and told me. So there are a lot of changes. So I cannot say they were good or bad, but definitely it is a tremendous change in what we expect and what happened. So that is what I would like to say.
Okay, ma'am. So basically, you're trying to tell that there are pros and cons of every situation, and this
Yeah.
change is also positive in some aspect and negative also in some
Yeah.
aspect, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, what are the changes you have seen other than ebooks, which you have mentioned, like digital and audiobooks in the publishing world after the lockdown? I'm going to start with you, Radhika ma'am.
Like I said, ebooks and audiobooks itself was a little new in the sense that compared to paperback, I was not familiar, and especially the audiobooks. The problem which I thought was with audiobooks is the audiobook not only portrays what the author says, it depends on the voice actor. So how they modulate, what they say. So that makes a lot of difference. Even a book well written, when it's not read in the correct way, it makes a lot of changes. So that was one thing which I noticed. And as such changes, what I noticed was many authors, even Shobha Day and J.K. Rowling, all of them, they brought out, they wanted to bring out a book, but they never brought out the book fully. They released it in stages, the first chapter in the first week for the children. And Shobha Day's stories were 24 stories, which happened like based around the pandemic. But she also released one story a week and later compiled. So that was the trend which I noticed because people were starting to get fed up having this gadgets for a long time and they preferred short reads. So more than the novels, the short stories, and there was a lot of change in fiction. People jumped from fiction to non-fiction and self-help books. So that were audiobooks, and then you found almost many of the women involved in this now. Since they didn't have the spare time was gone, the whole family sitting at home completely. So they took on to the gadgets which they got, and they were listening to the audiobooks when cooking and cleaning and those sort of things. So that audiobooks really helped that way. But as I told you, it depends on the device availability, the net issues. So in that way, I don't think it's very fair for the author's part. But if you release the book in stages or short story book, it was doing quite well. So that was the techniques I noticed.
And Vikram sir, what are your thoughts on this?
See, many people discovered the KDP platform and the self-publishing platforms, and they were, of course, very useful for self-publishers. Because when you take a book to the publisher, they have their own requirements and you have to fit into that. Now, this self-publishing gave a lot of scope for people to come out with their own books, which they did, and some of them are good also, as I have been following many books. Yes, beside the KDP platform, there is a Draft to Digital platform, which can give you the access to Apple, Kobo, Barnes and Nobles, so many different platforms where people can read. And if I see my sales data, most of my books were sold in ebook format, and most of them were sold in USA and Canada. Okay, they were sold across 12 countries, but the chunk of it got sold in USA and Canada. Now that was a market which in India, as a writer with Indian publisher, I could not have thought of getting access to. So this ebook has actually, helped people getting their approach right into the homes of so many readers. Secondly, as you asked for audiobooks. Yeah, as Radhika said, audiobook largely depends on the voice and the modulation of the speaker than the spirit in which I wrote the book. See, I write in Indian philosophy. It has got a lot of references to ancient Indian philosophies and even the pronunciations, like karma and all that. The way a native English speaker would pronounce it will be very different from how Indians would understand that. So yes, if you get a right voice, if you get a right speaker to firstly understand the subject that you want to communicate and then communicate it exactly in the same manner, it's perfect. Yeah, it's a good thing. You can listen to an audiobook while you are driving or doing other menial jobs where you can't really sit and read a book. So, yeah, they are very useful.
Siddharth, sir.
Yes, I resonate with both of whatever you said. The first thing is the physical copy. Nothing can replace the paperback. Mine is a much bigger book. It's around 648 pages, more like a textbook kind of a format. And I was not sure. Okay, ebook, how it's going to work. But when I looked at my stats, I was able to reach out to so many new audiences that I never thought that I would reach out to. In fact, 50% of most of my sales are only ebooks. Mostly like USA, and we hit the international bestseller also, USA, UK, and both these markets because of the ebook that was able to go out there. And so my thought on ebook is it's great to reach to new audiences, especially in other countries. But within India, locally, like Amazon India, it was paperback that was driving the whole thing because most of my audience, my community are all based over here. And when it comes to audiobook, personally, I love listening to audiobooks on Audible. I've got a lot of my books on Audible. So when I'm driving, drive time. So as a consumer, depending on the topics and the books that I choose, I love listening to audiobooks. But when it comes to this book, which I wrote, I would not probably give it to anyone else to read. I would prefer reading it myself as an author, so that I can communicate it the best possible way. So I think there are pros and cons to both. But the future is to look at multiple media, because people are going to be searching when they even get to know about your book. When they see your ebook, the way that I structured my book in the chapters is at the end of every chapter, I would give a call to action for people to go and see some of my videos or something on YouTube. So I was able to interlink the physical book or the ebook with the channels where I'm most active on. There are more than 300 videos on my YouTube channel. So that way I was able to see a good leverage that I got from the book because of the connection I had between the book and my existing online social media channels. So I think every author needs to think about multi-channel and an integrated approach rather than just depending on one form of media. It's good to explore different media, but look at the best way to use that media and integrate them. Those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So you've told us that every author needs to think think about multimedia. But it is my personal question that you have mentioned also कि आप अपनी खुद के book को I don't think so आप audio में convert करना चाहेंगे. But मुझे ये जानना है कि सारी जितनी भी जॉनर्स होते हैं बुक के सारे नहीं बन सकते ऑडिबल वो कन्वर्ट नहीं हो सकते बिकॉज ऑफ दैट दैट व्हाट डू यू कॉल इट यूनिकनेस राइट बिकॉज वो अच्छी ही सिर्फ पढ़ने में लगती है बुक वो ऑडिबल में वो सुनने में अच्छी नहीं लगेगी शायद. So do you think कि सारी नहीं बन सकती हैं वो कुछ particular genres ही बनते हैं book?
You're right. Yes, like Vikram said, some of our Indian topics and the pronunciations of Sanskrit and all that, you hire any kind of reader, they would not get it, or they would not get the essence of how to pronounce that unless you are able to do it yourself. I think that's the reason why I said that if I like audiobooks, and if I had to do an audiobook, I would do it myself. I would prefer recording it myself, like Gary Vaynerchuk and all these other authors, and Blair Singer, another mentor of mine. He reads his own books. So when he speaks, it comes from his heart. So again, there are different genres of books. If it's going to be stories and others, that could be approached in a different way. If it's a book where there's a strong message behind it, if it comes from the author, it would have a much bigger impact. Yes.
Okay, sir. So my next question is, what are your thoughts on self-publishing? Will you prefer to self-publish your book or go to a publisher? And I'm just going to start with you, Siddharth. Sir.
Yeah, I had this dilemma before I started writing the book. Should I go for traditional or self? And luckily, I had quite a few author coaches within my own tribe. And the more I thought about it, I felt self-publishing is always a good place to start. And since it was my first book, and because traditional publishing has a lot of requirements and a lot of hurdles to go through as compared to self-publishing, but the reach is there, visibility is there, the pros and cons are there for both. But if anyone is starting off, I think going self-publishing and proving your worth is the best, like proving the results and in terms of sales and getting a feedback from the market, understanding that. And you look at some of the big publishers like Jack Canfield. I've had the opportunity to work with him also. His interviews there in my book. And he said in the beginning, he went to some 100+ publishers and everyone rejected him. And one publisher picked him up, and that Chicken Soup for the Soul made its rounds. It became the publishing phenomenon of the decade. So it's a very grueling journey if you take it that route, unless you're already well known. Like I'm following another author, his name is John Lee Dumas. I got featured on his podcast, one of the top podcasters in the world. So he had written many self-published books before that. And then the last one that he wrote was through a traditional publishing, and that like made its waves across the world because of that. So I think it's good to take it in steps. Start with self-publishing. As you build your brand and as more people come to know about you, maybe your second or third book can be like the traditional publisher should come to you rather than you going to them. Yes.
And Vikram sir, what are your views on this?
Well, I had a double-pronged approach. For my Indian readers, I knew ebook is not very popular with them, so I had the traditional paperback for them. And for reaching out to people in the USA, Canada, and Australia, and other places, I found this self-publishing platform very good, very useful. At least that is one thing which got me across through them, which my traditional publishing book would have taken a long time and a lot of investment to reach it out to the world.
And what will you prefer actually? If you'll work on your next project, what will you prefer? Self-publish your book, or you will go to a publisher? So
I'll do both, as I said. I'll do both.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And Radhika ma'am?
Yeah, if you speak about self-publishing now, earlier it was like a scar. Now it has become like a tattoo. That's all. It's more fashionable now. Earlier, only amateurs used to go with this self-publishing. If you cannot get yourself published, that's the only way. That was the approach. But now it has changed a lot, especially with this Amazon KDP and those sort of things, where you can upload your own books. That has changed a lot. Of course, there are some problems there. The authors definitely get a higher share of the profit, but the sales is comparatively low. And there is a lot of scope for plagiarism there. Nobody can actually be held accountable. There are a lot of things that can skip the softwares and go there. That is one part of the thing. And another part which I would like to say is quality control. Once you go for self-publishing, you can't guarantee. See, there may be so many good books also in self-publishing, but there are quite a few which are not worth even a 5 minutes of our life. So that how will the reader choose and find out the book? So it becomes more difficult for the reader to get to the book. See, there are some actors or actresses who can publish a 500-page book with only selfies, the whole book. So what is the literary attribute to that? But that is done by self-publishing. Okay, so that is a problem. Going to a publisher will definitely help us to promote the book, and we learn the nuances of how the book has to be brought out. So a publisher will really help. But traditional publishing is going to take a very long time, and unless you are really someone who you others know, it is very difficult to keep it moving, and you have to wait for a long time. That requires a lot of patience and time. So now going to a publisher and publishing your book is very good, and it is finally accepted also. Now people are beginning to get the idea. Since ebooks are priced low, also people are willing to give it a try. Only thing to remove that the bad elements from the good, that picking out, that sieving is a problem as of now. So if they are able to do something about it, then definitely I think self-publishing is good.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to new authors or debut authors on how to market themselves and their books, for better attention or for better reach? Radhika ma'am.
See, there are so many authors who are very well established. I don't know how well I can answer this question with what I have written or published, but definitely what I feel I can say. See, the first thing I feel is you have to create a brand. If somebody knows that this is this person's book, they would, more than seeing the title, they must immediately pick up your book. So you have to create a brand, and for that, I think an author website or something. So instead of waiting for some 10 books and then creating the website, along with the first book, the author, debutant author can try to create a website and start. Okay, and they should share some of at least their personal experiences, a photo, or they must be able to communicate to the small reader community which they get. So that communication will really help. They should have a touch with the readers. They can have an email list and promote through that list. And another thing is the content. Your first book content definitely has to be impressive. Only then, even the people who you really want them to buy the book will buy it. See, it is not only a thing of the people buying the book. People should read it. So that is when the author really wins. There are some people who just buy the book for your sake, but they don't read it. No, that is not a real sales, even though that's going to get you a profit. So buying the book is one part. So your content has to be good. So thorough research has to be done. And like I said, when we go through a publisher or editor, the corrections can be made. So instead of a book with so many errors in it, you should not have even a single error in the book. So perfection is what you should aim for with the good content in your first book. And the book cover. We say never judge a book by its cover, but I think everyone does that. So the first time we pick up a book, even before looking at the back, we look at the catchy name also, that title of the book. So the title and the front cover is going to impress a lot. So I think as much as attention we pay for the insides of the book, we should also play for the outside. And most of the people, like I would go books that are easier to read, where you don't have to refer a dictionary for all the words, and where it is simpler to read, where you don't have to wear your specs only and read it for all people. So the letters, I'm saying, we mustn't try to compromise on the number of pages. So good quality book with a good website and good promo, and it should be genuine. We should never try to get the reviews like that. The reviews should come genuine, means I think definitely it will take a lot of time, but with proper effort, and we can definitely do it. But a lot of patience is required for this. You can't expect anything with the first book, but our efforts should start from the day we start writing the book. So that is what I would say.
Very impressive, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I want to add something to it, that whenever I buy any book, I don't really, get impressed by the front cover or the title, but the back cover. And I always read the synopsis, or whatever is written on the back. Then only I judge the book, and then only I just make my mind that I want to buy this book. So I think the reviews that it has on the back of the cover and that synopsis, it really gets me. So I think that also can be a part. And what about you, Siddharth sir?
Yes, for me, the whole approach is a book launch is a strategic thing. Okay, it is not just about writing what's in your mind and then deciding, okay, let's self-publish and put it up there and then hope for things to happen. It has to be strategized right from day number one. So the first part of the strategy should be like Radhika ma'am mentioned, everything should be in like the title, the cover, and those elements that's going to be catchy. Like you should know, who are you writing it for? What is the objective of the book? Is the objective of the book just to educate? Is it going to be like a marketing tool? Is it going to be to establish you as a thought leader? I mean, you need to understand there are different approaches of the purpose of writing a book. So once that is clear, then the marketing will fall in alignment with that. So what I did for You Can Coach was, like I mentioned earlier, I had a ready audience. I was actually going to write a book 3 years ago, but I did not, because I felt it was not time yet. In the sense, I wanted the milk to boil a little bit more within my own community. I wanted to generate more insights and formulas. I have more than 21 to 25 original formulations that I have included in the book for anyone to launch their expertise online. So I had to test this a lot myself for my nature of a book, and I wanted to make it like a textbook. So I built it up. So we have to look at three phases to it. The pre-book launch day, marketing activities. The launch day, it's a very important day. And then after the book has been launched, what do you do to keep that momentum going for the sales to continue? So pre-launch, what I did was I set up a simple website with a countdown timer saying that this book is going to launch on this date, the date for 4 months before the launch date. And there's a timer that was counting down, and I was collecting emails. So I would tell people, I'm going to launch the book on this date. If you want to get notified before I launch, give your name and email ID. I'll tell you when we notify. So I built a pretty large email list just through that campaign that I was doing within the community. The launch event was also very strategically planned. So I partnered with 9 other experts in our industry, and we called it the Digital Masters Conference. We had over 4,000 people attend that session live on Zoom. So all of us, in fact, my book was also very strategic. I have 22 interviews in this book, and all of them are influencers. So 9 out of those 22, we all came together and we all sent an email blast to all our email lists to get everybody to this one event. Okay. And because they are in the book, they also have it's a win-win for them also. So everyone spoke about the book. And when I launched the book, I think that day we had some 1,000 sales in the same day itself, because there were 4,000 people in the room. So that marketing event was a big one. And I added one more to it, one more idea I can give for those of you who are watching, who are looking about how to strategize this. I gave away a free t-shirt. So anyone who would buy the book on that day, which is titled You Can Coach, I would give them a t-shirt on it printed I Can Coach. Of course, there's a little budget that I had to put for this, but it was an important activity. So when after they buy the book, they had to just send their screenshot to a Google form, and then I had a merchandise team that would ship them that t-shirt anywhere within India. So that's why we got a lot of sales, which happened during that first 1 week. And then after the book is launched, you need to very strategically go into multiple channels. For example, this is one of the examples of we are coming on Frontlist to speak about the book and get more visibility. I've been on at least 10 different podcasts, been on other influencers where they interviewed me about the book. I spoke about the book, and that got some leverage and traction on the book. So I've planned something out for the next 6 months to continue on this. So it's a little bit of a longer answer, but yeah, you got to really go strategic and make it a bestseller. And bestseller is it's just a strategy. But once you get that title, then that opens up more doors. Yeah, back to you.
And Vikram sir, what are your advice? What advice would you give?
Yeah, there's a lot already spoken by Radhika and Sid, but what I would tell to anybody who's beginning to write a book is content is the king. So first get your why right. Why do you want to write that book? Is it just because you want to write a book with your name as the author, or do you have a message to convey? It has to be a value package for the reader who's buying your book. After buying the book and opening a few pages, if the reader feels, oh, it's a mistake, I wasted $1 or whatever, then it fails the purpose. So get your content right, get your why right. Once you have a strong why, then the how will come automatically. Okay. Now, yes, as Radhika also mentioned, editing, it's a big challenge, because some people try to get cheap in the way to greatness. You try to compromise on these costs. They want to go on Canva, design their own covers. There are so many professional designers available to do it as a jig for you. You don't have to go to a very expensive designer. You can get a jig done for a very affordable cost. A $10 or $20 budget, you can get the best of the covers done. And for say $100, you can get a native English editor edit your book. So this kind of investment is necessary if you really want your book to be appealing and reach out to the masses. This kind of expenditure is not expenditure, but an investment, as I say. So if you have the right content to deliver, if it is packaged well, and if it is value for money for the reader, not only the money, I call it the ROT, return on time. I have spent say 2 hours to read a book, and I should not feel cheated in the end that, oh, I've read this in so many places, and he's just filtered out information from the internet and put it in the book. It should not be like that. So it should be worth the ROT of the reader. And of course, three things, as I said: content is the king, good packaging, and return on time.
Thank you so much, sir. And my next question is, what are the opportunities and threats in the new age publishing? And I'm just going to start with you, Vikram sir.
See, opportunities are unlimited, as I said. There is a self-publishing opportunity. You have the KDP platform, you have Draft to Digital, and you have many other platforms. But yeah, opportunity-wise, it is abundant. The traditional publishers also have now opened up a way of self-publishing. They've got a website, they offer you a package, you go and upload, and you get your book published without any filtering, without any questions, which is the image of a publisher, that the publisher will screen and filter your content before they make it print worthy. No, it's not happening any longer. There are so many good publishing houses which have opened up self-publishing through their websites. Okay, so that is the opportunity as well as a threat, because the logo of the publisher is going with the book. You know, somebody sees a book like Siddharth, your book, it has come from a reputed publisher. I bought your book, I know that. So now imagine he has got a tremendous content, and some other author can bring out a very suboptimal content through that same publisher. Now, if I've read a book from that publisher and another book I pick up from that publisher, which is not up to the mark, again, the purpose gets defeated to bring your book through a publishing house. So these are the threats. Of course, as you said rightly, you see the back cover of the book and how well it has been synopsized, how well it has been put across in a few lines, whether it conveys a fruitful message. That's the way you pick a book.
And Siddharth sir, what do you want to say on this?
I think Vikram has beautifully summarized another point. The threat is definitely going to be on quality and substance and plagiarism and the other aspects. They're just copying, taking cut, copy paste from here and there. That's something which we cannot really check, with the way things are moving. But on the opportunities are huge. So that opens up, it's a level playing field now. So anybody has the opportunity to bring out their message out there. So even if somebody who's not having the resources or the connections or the contacts through self-publishing, they can really put out something which was never possible probably 5-10 years ago. Like how easy it is right now, it's not there. So it's like weighing the pros and cons. But from what I see is now, with all of this happening, with more and more people coming on, it's very easy now to anyone to just call themselves as an author. They can just write anything, publish it. So what I've noticed is in any industry, when there is growth, or when it's booming, when there's so much of open playing field, it also gives rise to a lot of junk that will come up. But in that junk also, the stars will shine. Those who are really delivering an impact, they will start to shine, and the people will be able to see that there's a difference between both. So I think it's both sides of the coin. It's always going to be there, not just in this industry. In every industry, there's always the pros and cons of it. But overall, I'm very optimistic about how things are moving. And see, for me, the way that I approach the book is to use it as a branding tool. So I'm not really dependent on the book just for income or anything like that. It is what the book is going to be, the tool that opens doors for other things. And that is more like a business strategy for me. And now for others, it may be different, because there's a different approach. Some others would write the book just purely for the knowledge that the audience is looking for. Of course, there is a lot of knowledge, but it's a different angle that I've taken. So once people are given access to these platforms, they need to get the right mentoring on how to launch, how to write a book. That's why it's very important to pick a book author, coach, or somebody who can guide you through the process, who can really help you avoid all those pitfalls that are there. So those are my views.
Yeah, what I would like to say is, I think they have summed up what are the disadvantages and how we can overcome them. There are few advantages There are a few advantages which I feel are there in New Age publishing. Am I audible? So the main thing is, like, see here, if there is, you don't have to, the industry is old, the publishing industry, but they also have taken to new technology. So you don't have to submit a manuscript and wait for it to, what will happen to the manuscript, will it be accepted, what stage it has reached. So now it is all automated. So you have to just upload it and see the status and see what the status it is in. And the reviews are all, no, earlier it used to be like you have to send 1,000 mails this side and that side. Some of the material will be, you cannot read it in that format. You have to change the format. It won't be downloadable. So all that has gone off now. And everything is made automated. So even the review and all has been much easier. Submission software is there which can update. And second, we can review, we can collaborate, we can speak to all the people involved in that particular book at the same time. So I feel it is a good opportunity, not only to bring out your book when it is not possible traditionally, but we can also do it in the best way. So there are more opportunities for that, provided, like Sir said, you have to maintain your quality, and if you're careful about it, then I think really this is a boon only. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. So this will be my last question to you. NEP is drawing attention to regional languages other than English, and it will give unlimited opportunities to the author who come from different backgrounds, and they can write in their preferred language. What are your views on the same?
See, this is a little complicated to say. The NEP has given that challenge. Now they have said that up to 6th or 8th standard, you can continue teaching in the mother tongue. See, I don't know how far it is applicable to other countries. In India, this is going to be a little difficult because we don't have one mother tongue. I myself have 2 mother tongues. So my husband is one place, my mother is one place. So see, it is not very easy to say that we have so many dialects, so many languages in India that it is very difficult to do this. And teaching in that form, like you have to supply textbooks in that particular language, means first of all, we need the teachers should be trained, or the people who write the books need the training first. So it is not going to be an easy process. So those people who have the material, who know the content, how far will they be able to deliver it as a good book? So that is a real challenge. So maybe it will open up opportunities for people who cannot publish maybe in English. So a teacher may be very good in teaching science in Tamil, but the same teacher may not be able to say that in English, but will that teacher be able to match the quality of a book? Textbook is something we have to look for. Definitely they need help from other sources. See, I'm not very, maybe now teachers have got a little, at least this technology, some connection, Earlier when we are in colleges and all, mobiles are banned for the teachers or staff inside. So we are far away from technology, and it is taking a lot of course, we are learning it faster. I won't say no. So in teaching, this is not going to be very easy implementing. How many of them will be able to spare the time to write a textbook and bring it out? They will have enough of time with the book correction and those sort of things. So that is a real challenge. If that has to be done, it can be done in stages. And my suggestion is, see, when we want to improve a language, okay, what people feel, what NEP says is, it will improve learning. Children will like to learn in their own mother tongue, so there will be less dropouts. And the children will improve, they will be able to understand. All that is fine. But I think so from smaller classes, instead of taking English grammar and giving them poetry and a lesson and question answers and fill in the blanks, we can emphasize more on spoken English and teach them to read. So when any language, not only English, see in South India, we learn Hindi as a second language, but I don't know how many Hindi students really speak Hindi. So that is where we fail. So learning a language doesn't mean necessarily like writing an essay about it or producing whatever is in the textbook without a mistake. That is also not learning. So what I suggest is they can introduce English in the younger stages, but they need not write so much as they are doing now. Let it be more of an oral communication. And first, the people who teach English should be in a position to communicate comfortably with English. So that sort of thing, see, that is the problem. Actually, not just learning in English or not in the mother tongue. They can start for the younger classes, they can teach in the mother tongue, but together, see, suddenly when they come to 8th standard, how will they change to the medium back to English? That's not going to be possible. So my suggestion is definitely as textbooks will improve, but we have to give some support, technical as well as other support to teachers who are writing in regional languages. Along with that, some other people have to take the initiative to educate these children to converse well and understand and bring in the reading habit. See, once the reading habit comes in, we cannot stop them. They will start reading, means definitely they'll start improving their language also. So all these things done together only will really bring about success. That is what my opinion is from the education point of view.
So, Siddhartha, do you agree what Radhika ma'am said, or do you want to add something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See,
what
now
do you want to say?
yes, it's a very interesting topic because now if you see I'm looking from a digital perspective on the topic that I am in. The vernacular languages, especially on platforms like YouTube, are consumed at least 10 to 20 times more than English. So from a book perspective, yes, English is still the primary. And if you see some of the bigger books, like if I have to look at a book strategy, I would definitely want to do English first. And once it's building momentum, then translate in other languages. A phase 2 activity is how I would look at it from a business angle. But if you see overall, the consumption is huge on vernacular languages right now. Hindi being the biggest market. And even if you just see YouTube channels across the world, I mean, India is right up there. T-Series and all these other YouTube channels, which is they're competing with the global YouTube channels in terms of subscribers and things like that. So consumption is huge. Only thing, like Radhika mentioned, is that habit of reading is not there now. Now the younger generation are looking at video consumption more than reading consumption, and I'm seeing this in my own kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old, and kids are glued to YouTube channel. And probably if YouTube launches a car in 10 years, these kids will buy it. It's like that. There's so much with YouTube. So the point is, from a book perspective, I think English is still primary for launch, unless that your audience is fully catered to a particular language. But having said that, if the reading habit is inculcated, that gives new avenues for people to read in their own mother tongue, and then get the real essence of that book. Like spiritual books, I know for sure, like the Gita and others, like they're translated in multiple 20, 40, 100 languages, all languages in the world. But depends on, again, what the book is all about. So those are my views. Yes, video definitely is vernacular, but books, we still need to see how this evolves, how the world is changing. Yes. Over to you, Vikram. Yes.
See, I'm talking about languages from the Indian perspective now, not from the world perspective. Okay, because I have heard that the president of Russia speaks in Russian and the president of France speaks in French, and they both don't speak in English. But in India, what happened? The education system that prevailed was destroyed, and we had Macaulay's education plan taking over it, which was intended to make Indians only as employable clerks. So they had to speak a basic level of English language, and they had to have a generalized view of many things rather than being specialized into anything. So this system, unless the system is corrected, merely putting in a plug-on that you can do languages up to 5th, or if you can do this or you can do that, one NEP over the other NEP, it is not going to help. Okay, I'll be criticized for this statement vehemently, but unless you really change the purpose of education, we are still, whatever NEP guidelines, if you read through it, my colleagues have written books on that. I have read their books. Whatever you read through it, it is just, a repackaging of what was going on. The state level boards were already doing vernacular education. Now, if you have brought that into the central system as well in CBSE, fine. Then what has changed in the education sector? You are still going on to making graduates, postgraduates, and then become clerks at the end of it. So unless you really change that education system, this merely, opening up languages and all is not going to help. And India already had a strong language. Sanskrit was the language of the learned. Tamil was the language of the learned in a particular part of India. Now, these true languages have taken backseat. Okay, so they replaced it something like Hindi, which was closest to Sanskrit. Now, Hindi also is not very popular, although it is a first language in North India, but the way they speak Hindi is absolutely a corrupted version of Hindi with a lot of Urdu words and a lot of convenient English words in it. So it is not actually Hindi the way it is supposed to be spoken. So yeah, in that case, regional languages become very important. When there is no other dominating strong language to take place of English, regional languages can do that better than Hindi alone can do. So yeah, promoting regional languages is good, but what is important for the education sector is you should know the why you are going to educate the children and what for. Unless you correct that, all this is not going to help.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such an enlightening session. I've learned so much, and I hope you all enjoyed too. You have given so much, you've given so much knowledge to me personally. And at last, if you want to say something, Vikram, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having us on this kind of a panel, which is an eye-opener for all of us. As you said, you learned a lot. I too learned a lot from the views of others. And that's the purpose of meeting for a specific discussion. It's always beneficial to everybody who is a part of that. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, sir, and Siddharth, sir.
Yes, thank you. Great to connect virtually with all of you here. Vikram, Radhika, it was great. One of my favorite quotes is by Jim Rohn. He says, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. So what we're doing here is really riding forward the self-education, side of things. And I think any author looking at this or planning to become an author, just do it and take your message out to the world, because that's going to inspire somebody else based on your own experience of the world. That's even more powerful than just what's taught in regular system of education. So that's what I want to say. Yeah.
And Radhika, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for making this possible. Actually, I have seen both of their books and Vikram sir's book as well as and I have never thought that I'd be able to meet and speak to them, and for 1 hour. That's something really which we never get time for. And your questions were really good in the sense that some of the questions made me really think about what I really wanted to know. Certain things we have never thought about. So thank you for making us think also with your very nice questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Bye bye. Have a good day.